a message. I'm doing this message kind of as a preparatory to, well, not kind of, but as a preparatory to doing the Torah service either next week or the week after, whichever week we're going to do it. And I'll be describing that as we go along. But there's some important items that we really have to know. We are continuing. Okay, are you Israel? Yes. You have to be. Yahweh, open our eyes that we might see wonders from your word. This is, again, continuing with pulling our heads out of the sand as we begin to delve deeper and deeper into Yahweh's marvelous word. Yes? Stuff that he says that we sometimes think, well, that's not important. He thinks are really important. So we need to look at what makes us clean and unclean. Are you clean right now, today? And what did you do or did not do that made you unclean? Yahweh's people have to be set apart. This is a serious thing. We kind of let it off because if we came out of the church, we weren't taught this. But it's important. Yahweh, your Elohim, and you shall set yourselves apart, and you shall be set apart. Why? Because he is set apart. He's not joking on this one. I'm bringing you out of the land of Mitzrayim. In other words, you're coming out as an entire nation and strangers that join. So when he's saying that, bringing you out of Mitzrayim, he's referring to a lot of people that came out. You shall be set apart because I am. Yahweh speaks to Moshe, saying, now this is just for you. You don't have to worry about it, and it's going to be done with someday down the road, so just don't get too excited. No. He says, speak to the congregation of the children of Israel and say to them, be set apart, for I am set apart. For I am Yahweh, your Elohim, I am set apart. Period. Done deal. No further discussion. You just said y'all was Israel, right? I asked. Many of you said, yeah, I am. Okay. We have to be clean. Our households or our camps have to be clean. I'm not going to go into that in a whole lot of detail, but there was an issue with you'll have a sharp implement, and when you got to go do your business, you go out of the camp to do it because he doesn't want any of that stuff laying around. Perfectly natural stuff. There's nothing wrong. It doesn't cause sin, but it's unclean, and he didn't want it laying around. We're to be set apart. King James Version says holy. The problem with the word holy is it's been a misused word in our language. It's not our fault. It's just holy cow. I mean, it's misused. So we don't understand what it means. And our households are to be set apart. Yahweh dwells in the midst of our camp. Yahweh dwells in the midst of the praises of his people. Did anybody ever hear that before? I know I've heard it. Some of our songs may even say that kind of thing. We need to know, we need to have this place clean. And before the service, pastors going around sweeping up all the dead bugs. Dead things are unclean. He was sweeping up all the dead, unclean things. So we would not encounter the dead, unclean things. He didn't know that, but that's exactly what he was doing. And it's important. keep the camp, keep this place clean. Yahweh's tabernacle is clean. For Yahweh your Elohim walks in the midst of your camp. Oh, to deliver you and give your enemies over to you. He's the big guns. Your camp has to be set apart. He doesn't want to see unclean matters among you where he might turn away. I don't want that. Yahweh has a standard of clean and unclean that we, humans, do not understand. So when we see these things, we say, what? What? Huh? We don't get it. It's not our job to get it. He says, my thoughts are not your thoughts. My ways are not your ways. The heavens are way up there, and my ways are way up there. That's paraphrased. Now, I'm throwing this out because I was thinking about that middle of the night. Hit me kind of hard. When Yahweh talked to Moses and said, you're going to make this temple thing, this tabernacle thing, like the one I showed you. You're going to make it like the one that's right up here that I'm sitting here looking at right now. Does he have it? Does he have one of those tabernacles still in the heavens, in his throne room, in his place somewhere? There's not a single word that says it went away. The one that we made kind of just sort of slips out of history. Or did it? I don't think so. But that's my personal problem. If he has one in the heavens and he's watching over it, the copy was down here. Are those sacrifices still going on there, up there? I'm just throwing it out, okay? I'm not saying they are. I'm not saying nothing. I'm just saying, if he said those are forever, I think about that. Therefore, there is a priesthood up there, if that's the case. That priesthood is doing all those things that he told the one down here to do. Who those people are or whatever, I don't know. The 24 elders were 24 priests. So who are they? What's going on? His ways are not our ways. And he's got stuff up there in such a manner with a cleanliness level that we don't fully get a hold of. So we would like very much to at least attempt to copy those things right here in our place. And that's what we want to try to talk about. And in Deuteronomy it says, and you shall do what is right and good in the sight of Yahweh. Not whatever we think, but in his sight. That it may be well with you. This is a provisional statement. If you do these things, it will be well with you, is kind of what it's saying in there. And that you may go in and possess the good land for which Yahweh swore to your fathers. And then he says, all the ways of men are pure in his own eyes. So we've been taught in our churches, you don't have to do all that ceremonial stuff. But if the little dream or whatever it was I had is for real, it's going on in the heavenlies. If that's the case, who says we're not supposed to do that? Who says the ceremonial stuff went away? It's got to say it somewhere. It's not there. Okay. I'm not too sure what you're talking about. This is a real problem. We're like that guy. Who's supposed to tell me these things? In days of old, temple times, the Levites had the responsibility of teaching Israel, that's all 12 tribes plus the strangers, the difference between clean and unclean. Now, I know that Pastor has put up a thing. Do you pencil in the set apart days? Do you pencil in Yahweh's feast days on your calendar? Well, towards down about 3/4, it says, do you know the difference between clean and unclean? Yes? Well, do you? We got to know. Those guys were supposed to tell us. They're gone. Temporarily. They're gone from earth anyway. So the responsibility falls to our pastors and our rabbis, our so-called teachers, our so-called spiritual leaders. Whoa, we are in deep kimchi. We're in trouble for a fact. What makes us unclean? They don't tell us this stuff. Well, here's what it is. Eating unclean things. Go to Leviticus chapter 11. I don't need to redo this. We've done it at least, 12, 14, 15 times? At least. If you eat unclean things, you are unclean. Period. You want to have bacon and eggs? Go ahead. You can. No problem. But it makes you unclean. That's it. I didn't say it. It wasn't my choice. I kind of like bacon. You know? But we're not supposed to eat it. Why? Because he said so. When you were, when your mom said, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, why? What'd she say to you? Because I said so, that's why. I'm the mom, and I said so, that's why. He's God. He has every right to say so. We don't have to understand it. Nowadays, there's scientific evidence to tell us about all these things. And quite frankly, and that includes stuff like shrimp and lobster and catfish, eels. And who in the world thought one of those ugly shelled things and that gob of disgusting stuff was food? Please. We don't eat it. Whether it's unhealthy or not has nothing to do with it. We don't eat it because he said so. This also includes things that are strangled, blood, and things offered idols. Acts chapter 15, right there in that verse 20 or so. Look it up. It says that was table manners stuff. When the Gentiles came in, they said, don't do this because they used to eat this stuff. Today, there's places in the world that serve blood pudding and blood sausage and stuff. Well, don't eat it. He said don't. He said the life's in the blood. Don't disrespect the life by eating it. He was serious about that. By the way, he still is. And touching dead things. But I can wash my hands. Yeah, you can. But he says if you touch a dead thing, you're unclean until evening. That's what it says. This is a problem. We noticed this. It was really weird how dead lizards showed up Friday night, Saturday morning in our house. The cat drags in a dead mouse on Sunday morning, or Sabbath morning. The cat drags in a dead mouse Friday night and leaves it in the hallway, or parts of it anyway. What are you going to do with it? You got to pick it up. We're not supposed to touch it. It makes us unclean. Pardon me? Yeah. So we can probably pick it up with, like you did. You swept it into the little dustpan thingy. We don't think anything of this, but he does. Do you know he said to the Levites, you can't even attend dead people's funerals, even relatives' funerals. Wow. This is serious stuff. He considers it real serious. Now you can say, well, there's nothing coming off the body. That's not what he was asking about. He says, don't do it. You are unclean. There's a thing about life, death, that's really important to him. That's the blood thing, all right? Touching the blood or having anything to do with the blood is having something to do with the living essence of wherever the blood came from. But now that living thing is dead, and you're touching the dead of the blood. You're not supposed to. We leave that be. Okay, the rest, this little piece here, this is PG rated. Bodily emissions or discharges. Males and females have bodily emissions and discharges. They do not make you sinful, all right? Understand that. They have nothing whatsoever to do with sin. The juicy stuff is unclean. And if you touch it or have it, it makes you unclean. A woman in her monthly separation, she is unclean for a period of time. A woman after giving birth is unclean for a period of time. Now this is that life-death sort of thing. When a woman is in her monthly time, the flow represents, not death necessarily as something has died, but something that is not alive, not life. And in one of these days, of course, she's going to get pregnant or something like that. And then now we're dealing with life. But when she has the baby, there is a time when she is unclean. A man or a woman with a discharge from their flesh. You get an owie, a scab, you get a scratch or something like that. Not only does it bleed, but as its healing process, there's gooey stuff coming out of it. The gooey stuff's unclean, makes you unclean. That's it. A woman with a discharge or flow of blood, not related to the monthly flow. Hey, the lady with the flow of the discharge of blood that ran into Yeshua, that's what this was about. She was unclean. And there's a whole message right there in her touching Yeshua. And a man with a discharge of semen. I don't even know how to put this, but once this happens, you are unclean until morning, all right? I mean until evening. You got to wash, you got to do these other things. And it's all discussed in Leviticus chapter 15. We should be familiar with that. And you can say, well, this doesn't apply to me today. I don't think so. I honestly don't. And here's why. Years ago, we were at some conference thingy, and this couple was talking about coming to this serious conclusion that when she was having her monthly time, the two should not touch. They share a bed. How are they going to do this? And this was a serious concern amongst this couple. They had been convicted by Yahweh to follow his commands, and they didn't know how to do it. Then they discovered that Jews buy a kind of a double bed sort of a thing. It's sort of a biggie, queen-sizey kind of bed, split in the middle. And you can separate it, put the nightstand in the middle, and now you have two separate beds. That's what they bought to solve the problem. And there was this discussion of it, and it was just wonderful. But Judah has already done some thinking about it and says, well, what are we going to do? That was a solution. In Orthodox societies, you will never see an Orthodox man walking with his Orthodox wife holding hands. Now, in Leviticus chapter 15, we're not allowed to touch a woman who is in nidah, is in her time. So, this man and this wife like to walk down the street holding hands. However, for 2 weeks, they never do anything. They never touch each other. And then for 2 weeks, they're walking down holding hands and so on and so forth. Everyone in the neighborhood knows what's going on. Judah said, the Jews have said, no touchy. That preserves the dignity and the privacy of the woman. It's not because the man is superior, strutting along like anything like that. He is preserving his wife's dignity. Public will never know what's going on, and it is none of their business anyway. This is really an important thing. Why did the Jews separate men and women in the synagogue? Because it's a holy place, it's a set-apart place, and you don't want to have a woman who may be in her monthly and a man sitting together. Or she stays home and he comes to the services. Everybody knows. So instead, you separate, got the women over there, got the men over here, and no one knows what's going on. The dignity of the wife is preserved. That's what it's about. It's not some male chauvinism thingy thing, whatever. So yes, it does apply to us today, and we're going to talk about why. We got a problem. The priesthood and the temple no longer exist, but they will be restored when Yeshua returns. It's a done deal. It's in the book. If that's the case, the Torah and its commandments must still exist. They're being, as I was talking about, they're being done up there. Yahweh doesn't change. We're certain of that. And his Torah doesn't change. Okay? These are actual hardcore facts. So how does the clean and unclean commands affect us? Rat cheer at Yeshua's Sabbath church. Let's just forget about them guys out there on the other side of the door. Let's concern ourselves with ourselves. We're going to have a Torah service. The best way that we have thought about doing this is to put a sign-up sheet on somewhere back there. If you want to carry the Torah or read a reading, there will be 3 readings every time we have this service. You must be clean. Or you must not be unclean. We discussed it a little bit ago, so you know what I'm talking about, and if you're still a little bit hazy on it, look in Leviticus 15. If you fit any of those conditions, don't write your name down, because we're not going to ask. There's no way I could do this and preserve the dignity of the women except to have a sign-up sheet. Sir?
Question. So if you've got, let's say, a skin infection, you cut yourself, you're using triple antibiotic on it, but so you wouldn't sign up. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Okay. Male, female, I got a cut. It's scabbed over, but I picked at the scab and that stuff's coming out of it. Don't sign up. You are unclean. That's it. I can't hear you.
She's asking, if it's scabbed over and there's nothing oozing out, there's no.
It's scabbed over. It's whatever. It's the oozing part, the dischargey part. Actually, if it was like scabbed over, I'd probably still say, no, I don't want to do it just in case. Now, this might be insignificant to you, but we're not doing this for you or us. We really are here for Him. This is our situation, our problem with this. Now, there are things that go on in men and women that cause various discharges. We have to be clean to be up here. Now, so far, I can't think of anything that I've had where, I don't know about runny noses, but I don't know about other stuff. I haven't had those kinds of things that I would be concerned about. But if I did, I'm afraid I couldn't be up here. Because it's not you, it's Him that I'm here for. That's pretty serious. Okay? Here's something else. So this is my personal little thing. If you're going to read Torah, now, just right there at Sukkot, we had a Torah procession. There were several men in the room that I wanted to ask. I will not ask you if you're wearing T-shirts and shorts. Skip it. You will not be asked to come up and read. We should dress properly. Sunday go-to-meeting clothes kind of a thing. I ain't talking about suit and tie. Presentable clothing. And we have become lax. That's America has become lax. Who are we here for? Okay, that's my rant. Take it what you will. But if I'm going to call someone and you're dressed in shorts and a T-shirt, I can't call you. Okay. Well, we didn't have that. Well, there were people. Anyway, where am I on this thing? Remain set apart to Yahweh. This is the conclusion. Remain set apart to Yahweh. Do it daily, over and over again. If you become unclean because of whatever, these things that happen to us, it happens. But still remain that set apart. Don't eat unclean stuff. Now, you've heard this before. Just don't. And if you think God doesn't care about what you eat, go talk to Adam and Eve. I mean, they had an issue about that. They didn't follow the instructions. And don't bring unclean stuff to Oneg. Read the labels. I love beans. Love canned chili. Unfortunately, so much of that stuff has unclean in it because it's cheaper. That's too bad. Okay, this is when I was supposed to talk about the public participation in the liturgy. Yeshua said something about blessed are the clean in heart, the pure in heart, because they shall see Elohim. He can't have unclean in His presence. It's kind of a bummer for us, but He can't have. It's against His nature, and we don't want to mess around with that. Okay, closing comments. At the end of the service, we're going to talk a little bit about veterans issues. So,